What up? Welcome back to the Toni Snow Show. I am your host, Toni, aka Bob Felicia. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I hope y'all liked my last story that I gave y'all. I gave y'all part one and a part two of that, and y'all got a little insight of my journal entry. So I'm glad you guys got a piece of that. Let me clear my throat. So what I got for you guys, I got something real good for y'all today. All right. So this is for all of my mothers and guys. You know, if y'all want to tap in onto this, but this is going to be from a female's perspective. All of my mothers that are in joint custody with their partner, and you are not the primary custodial parent. That's the professional way to put it. The way I put it, the weekend parent. So I am that. I am the weekend parent. So I kind of wanted to dive into it because a lot of people kind of don't talk about it. It's real taboo. And I have been a non-custodial parent going on 7 years. So for the entirety of my divorce, we have 50-50 joint custody, but they live with their dad. And so this was a decision that I made when I first separated and left. It was a very hard decision. And so I'm going to dig in and I'm going to dive a little bit into it. So go ahead, make sure you grab you some pen, paper, just in case you want to take notes on the do's and do nots. And grab you some tea, some wine, or whatever it is of your choosing. This is not no pity story. We're going to put it like that. This is not no pity story. I'm not looking for any type of empathy or sympathy for anybody. Oh, well, Felicia. No. Okay. This is Toni, me, telling this story because this is a story Felicia's never been able to talk about. And so that's why Toni is here. Toni is here to talk about that. So make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, to the Toni Snow Show podcast. And then also you can look down in the description and you will see how you can find my podcast on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So now that we got that out the way, let's go ahead and let's dig into this story, right? Let's dig into it. All right, so my kids were between the ages of 5 and 10 when I left. And that's like going into kindergarten and starting middle school, junior high. And I have 2 girls and I have 1 boy. And the divorce was very, very difficult on them, on any kid. And sometimes parents, and I know for myself, we can be selfish in that time. And I know I was very, very selfish. When I made the decision to leave my children with their dad, it was a lot of trauma that led up to that, but that's not what the story is about. This is what happened after I made that decision. So once everything was all settled and their dad had primary custody, I lived in Houston for a short period of time. After my divorce was wrapped up, I ended up leaving. I think I stayed in Houston maybe 2 to 3 years after the divorce, but no more than 3. And I knew that I did not want to be in the city because it was I was stagnant. I wasn't able to grow. And so I had to make a decision to leave. And in my custody, I made sure that I got non-geographical restrictions. I was more than a weekend mom. I was very involved to the best of my ability that my co-parent would allow. And so these are some of the things that I kind of want to touch on. And so the first thing I'm going to talk about is co-parenting. We didn't have a good co-parenting dynamic. I was in a place I did not want to talk to him. I didn't want to say anything to him. If it wasn't about my children, we don't have much to say. And so I was placed in a position where I wasn't giving that other person the reaction that they wanted. I wasn't, trying to run back to that situation. They made it very difficult for me. And so when a lot of men talk about this from their perspective, oh, my baby mama this, my baby mama that, well, there are women that deal with that on the on the opposite side as well, and I am one of them. And we don't talk about it. So I wanted to shed light on that I really didn't and still don't have a cooperative co-parent. And so that makes it very difficult for you to have a relationship with the children. I'm not going to say that this person said negative things to my children about them, but I do know for sure they're not seeing anything positive. And that matters. And so once I got things kind of, and if this is all over the place, excuse me, I just kind of wanted to give you all the foundation of things, right? All right, so once I kind of got my footing after the divorce, I started progressing more in my career, and I had the opportunity to go to California, and that's how I ended up in Oakland, was because of my job and because I wanted a fresh new start. So I left. And that's very hard. So my visitation changed up because I was 100 miles outside of where my children stay. So that meant I only got to see them once a month versus every other weekend. Or just being able to go to lunch with them or showing up to, their shows and things. I made that sacrifice. And that was a decision that was hard, but yet very easy. So let me explain. So this part is not living in the same state. Not living in the same state. So because I wasn't living in the same state, that changed up my visitation. So for me being very active, I wasn't as active. And I could have did a better job. This is where the accountability piece comes in. I could have did a better job of explaining to my children what this move was for. And I remember, they started out in between 10 and 5. So they're not having an understanding on why mom is not here, why she's not showing up, why do you have to go so far? So it was very hard for them to grasp the concept that I was in another state for work. They didn't understand why I couldn't just stay in Houston and work. And the situation was too complex for them at that time for me to break that down. And so because I wasn't able to tell my story, they got another story. And it was very hard for me to show them otherwise because my co-parent was not allowing me to have my visitations when I would fly back to Houston. So this is where it all started to affect my relationship with my children. They automatically felt like I abandoned them, like I walked out on them. And they didn't know, because I shielded them from a lot of things, that I was flying back and forth to Houston and their co-parent wasn't allowing me to see them. That person was dealing with their own struggles, which they casted a lot of their insecurities onto me. And this person was very unhappy where they were in their life and didn't quite understand why I was excelling when they did everything that they possibly could to ensure that I did not succeed. So when I left and I went to Oakland, again, that was the time for me to grow and develop myself. And I did. I took advantage of every resource that was given to me so that I could provide not only a better life for myself, but a better life for my children. And so this person was just flat out just jealous and didn't allow me to see my children. In the state of Texas, you have to sue them in order for anything to happen. So it was months that I was just flying back and forth at our meetup spot where I was supposed to get my kids and never got them. But I had to build up evidence to show that, hey, I'm trying to exercise my visitation and this person won't allow me to exercise it. So at the end of the lawsuit, the judge wound up finding them guilty, granted me a year worth of visitation, and it also changed my custody as well. Because exiting out of the divorce, I had like this step up plan type of custody or whatever. And so I basically had to go and prove like I should have equal amount of custody because look what X and Y, look what this person is doing, not allowing me to show up. So it was a year that I did not get to see my kids, and that was very, very detrimental because they didn't understand. And again, even though this person may not have been saying bad things, they weren't saying positive things. And my children had a very skewed perception of the reality of things. So I'm trying to build a relationship with them when I'm away in a whole nother state, hundreds of miles away from them. I cannot see you. And talking to them was very difficult. So, I had to, I can put this on the other person, but I also had to take accountability of, I knew with me leaving what could have possibly happened. I knew that me leaving wasn't going to be an easy thing. And I knew that this person was going to make it extremely hard. And the only way that they can do that was, with my kids. And it was unfortunate. And it was something that I really had to work through. That was one of the most hardest times in my life. Literally just getting on a plane. I remember, I would call and text and be like, hey, I'm going to be here to pick them up. And me just having to hold back tears and them talking to me. And my kids asking me, hey, mommy, am I going to see you? And, and I'm like, yeah, I'm trying. And this whole time it's looking like I'm not even attempting to go. And so that was very hard, trying to explain that to them and just trying to fight and see them. Excuse me. And so I tried to do a lot of making up. And when I said making up, a lot of things financially, because at this point I have kind of gotten myself in a financial situation where not only I can provide for myself well, I can provide the way that I wanted to for my children. And so I tried to fill their lives up with things to make up for that void time. And eventually I started looking like an ATM machine. And that's a temporary void. And to anybody out there, don't make that same mistake. Don't try to fill the absence of your presence with monetary items or things. Don't do that. Because it only fills that void for a long time, and then eventually, your children wind up only viewing you as that. And so that's what has happened to me. And we just don't have that connection. They don't know me. I don't know them. I'm not the one that's putting them to bed at night. I'm not the one that's with them when they're sick. Not there to see their first boyfriend or girlfriend or any of that. Boo-boos, fights at school, you name it, I'm not there. And there was a part of me that I have so much aspiration. I wanted to be able to show them something more than what they saw when I was going through my divorce and when I was raising them. I wanted to show them that despite all the adversities that happened throughout my marriage and afterwards, that I can literally build something out of nothing. But my kids didn't see it as that. All they know is I wasn't there. So to spin the block, I came back to Texas. There was a position, and I came back. But I didn't go to Houston. I came to Dallas. Again, I'm going to show up for myself first. Because if I can't show up for myself first, I'm not going to be able to show up for anybody else. And so I don't attempt to try to do that. I appease and make myself happy first. Going back to Dallas brought me back closer, but now my children are older. Things have changed. Their outlooks on things have changed. So they had to adapt just as much as I had to adapt. Just like I had a coping mechanism, they had a coping mechanism. And so I think our attachment to one another kind of grew stale and stagnant. And so as they grew, I grew. And unfortunately, we kind of grew apart. And these are some of the things that people don't want to talk about. But it helped me with my accountability as a mother. And so kind of the dark side of being that other parent that is very ambitious, because I cared about my career, and I cared about my career a lot because I did not have anything. And I did not want to be that mother that had these children and did not have no means to provide for them. I did not want to be on food stamps or welfare, Medicaid, or any of that. I didn't want to do any of that. There's nothing wrong with it, but for me as a person, I knew that I had the capability to want and get more. And so I did that. And you have to be in a place where you have to understand that with you doing this, you're going to lose out on a lot of things. And those things is time with your children, and they cherish that. They don't care about the money, because I'm seeing that now. They care about that time. And sometimes it saddens me, but I don't sit and I don't dwell on that because I'm trying to show up now. Now, whether or not they accept that, that is on them. I do not force myself on my children. I try my best to be there within the limits of how they allow me to be. And that has been very difficult, but I find ways to navigate that. This life is not the easiest, especially when you don't have a co-parent that is a team player. It's not. And to any woman or man that's out there and you're yearning and wanting a relationship with your children, don't stop fighting for it. But also give yourself grace. Understand that you're not going to be there for everything, but show up for the things that you can. Because one day they'll come around. That's what I'm hoping. I know. One day they'll come around and they'll be able to see how I was there and understand some of the complexities on why I wasn't. But don't beat yourself down about it. Don't. This has been an amazing journey for me mentally, because I know I'm an amazing person. I know I'm an amazing mother. And if anything, they will see how I was able to endure life, how I was able to navigate life, how I was able to create things for self. They will understand what self-love looks like, and how they can achieve that. Then they will also understand and see what consequences look like, and how you have to take accountability for those consequences. I know this can be a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. It used to be a very sensitive topic for me. I'm so proud of myself that I did not cry, not one bit through this. This is growth and this is healing. So I hope you enjoyed this little snippet, this little story, and I hope this answered a lot of questions. I never talk about my kids. I don't post them. I don't do any of that. So this is going to be my first and my last time talking about them, okay?